Good morning, beautiful people of planet Earth and all other interdimensional entities and sentient beings. In fact, all our relations, all that lives, breathes or doesn't breathe, as the case may be, but has energy, atoms vibrating, sometimes at a much slower rate, like my desk chair I'm sitting on and my laptop with its little genie in it. Let's see how it behaves today, shall we? It's touch and go in any time in the space-time continuum, whether it lets the Mama T make her videos, the Tanya, the psychedelic dreamer. Oh dear goddess. Anyway, I had a wonderful time last night being the evening of the 28th and 29th of March. And there was a lot of love energy in the room, and I received lots of really heartfelt, powerful hugs, and it was just gorgeous. And I got to mosh to one of my most favourite songs, Seven Nation Army. Got to really get it out of me, which was exhilarating and very cathartic and healing for me. I went a lot of moshing songs. Ramjet didn't play a lot of the moshing songs last night, so there were only a few that I got to hang loose to, but thank you to my beautiful our beautiful Ramjet and wonderful musicians, and thank you also to Alter Egos when they play, and I'm very grateful for your musicianship and your talents. It's quite marvellous. And yes, I had a wonderful time, a really wonderful time. So it's a miserable rainy day here yet again, as you know, my postal lady yesterday told me it would be. So whoever passed her on that information is quite correct. And I'm a bit done. I don't cope well with grey misery, rainy, cold days that go on for days and days and days and days, because it messes with my complex PTSD and my, undercurrent of depression that I literally fend off daily by making videos and dancing, being creative. But it starts to grind my gears after a while when it's endlessly rainy. But I won't be the only one that feels that way right now in Brisbane, Australia. It's been a lot. It's been about 5 days now, I think. 4 or 5 days anyway. But on a happy note, the grass is growing. Not such a happy note for Mama, because when my grass gets out of control, I freak out, and it makes it hard for the little marmen to wrangle, because this is a very large block of land, so it's hard to mow. But anyway, let's not worry about that. We'll just shuck that off and not think about it. Eventually the sun will come out and things will dry up and the mowing will happen then. So I've decided to read a book called True Tales of Angel Encounters by Carmel, Reilly, and I note it's mainly made up of anecdotes from people who've had angel encounters, which is what the title says. And I find that all very fascinating, since I have my own personal angel that, apart from my wolf spirit, I have an angel that steps in from time to time. So I'm very, very conscious and aware of that. It has actually been seen by other psychics, have actually witnessed it in action in the good old glory days when I used to dance at that filthy rape den, Irish Murphys, up until February 2015. My angel was sighted stepping in to protect me, which was a bit astonishing because even at that point in time, I didn't know I had an angel stepping in to protect me, but it was witnessed and explained to me that, like, did you know that you have this presence with you? I said, not exactly, but I had sensed its power behind me and in danger situations. And this woman was quite awestruck actually. She said, I've never seen anything like it. He's enormous, 9 feet tall with a 12-foot wingspan. I thought, oh, actually, to be honest, I thought she might be. Because, you know, in pubs and clubs under the influence of alcohol, people get a bit, they get a bit odd. What brings out their more nutty ways, Like, oh, she's schizoaffective or she's imagining it. She said to me, you don't believe me, do you? I said, well, I do and I don't, I said, because I am aware that something steps up behind me. I've felt their presence, but I've never seen them. She said, oh my God, he's golden and he's beautiful and he's enormous. She said, put it to a test. She said, if you don't believe me, next time you're having difficulties, call upon him and see what happens. So I'll keep that. I'll store that away in my filing cabinet in my mind. Well, because it was a very rough and dangerous pub and there were a lot of not okay goings on back in the day, maybe they've cleaned up since then, I wouldn't know. I'll never set foot back in that pub as long as I live, unless they paid me a large amount of compensation and a written apology for their historical bad behaviour. But anyway, it wasn't long after I had this conversation with this wonderful psychic medium woman who I never saw again, actually. She told me she travels all around all the mines all around Australia. She sort of comes to Brisbane on average once a year, so I never met her again. She was a fascinating woman, actually, to tell me that I have an angel. Even I wasn't completely conscious of that. But anyway, the next time, which I think was only a matter of weeks or a month later, there was a bit of what I deemed to be unsafe tension building in the pub. I took her advice and I said, if you're there, angel of God, messenger of God, if you're there, there's things are getting out of control and I'm not able to contain it, especially since I'm here as a customer and I'm dancing my wild dance and I perceive reasonable danger but don't want to overreact or anything. But can you just keep a little, eye on things? The odd thing about that was instantly, I felt the presence. I call it a love presence because I don't know how to describe it actually. Step up behind me, close behind me and open. I felt the whoosh of its wings opening up as if it was enveloping me in like a shield of protection, a force field of protection. And even I went a little bit pale because I hadn't felt that before, per se. And the Māori security guard that was on, there was a few of them on duty that night, but this particular man was very kind to me. I think he had his own psychic abilities. He just looked at me and his eyes went really wide like saucers and he went a bit pale. Anyway, the troublemakers that had walked into the pub that I had sensed were dangerous. Within 5 minutes, they were gone. Just nothing was said. Didn't escalate into a violent fucking fracas. but they were just security guards kind of all just sort of gathered together and non-verbally one followed them around the pub, but kind of non-verbally it was all that no, don't start any shit here. And meanwhile my angel had me in a, kind of a force field, kind of almost felt like a air curtain when you walk into a building with aircon that have those kind of air curtains. I can't explain it, but you could feel the atmosphere had changed behind me. Anyway, when those troublemakers left, quite voluntarily actually, without creating any, danger, that security guard came up to me and said, "What did you do, Tanya?" "Me," I said. "I did nothing." He said, "No, you did. I saw it." He said, "I saw it in your face." So I must have emanated some kind of glow, probably from that being. Because I don't know, because I can't see my own face, obviously, like, duh, I'm just dancing, living my best life, as I do. And he said, "No," he said, "What did you do?" And smiled, and I said, "I reiterate, I did nothing." He looked at me, said, "But my angel, however," he went, just nodded. So all he did was just nodded. He said, "That's what I thought." And then we just carried on, finishing off the evening. Me dancing wildly on my infamous spot, which I had on the near the corner entrance of that pub, near the door, which I had that spot for 2.5 years. And I always have a spot, always. Just kind of odd, I admit, but wherever that spot is, it's where I feel the most comfortable to do my wild dance from. Anyway, then I realised that that lady hadn't been quite so crazy after all, and she had actually told me the truth, and it had been put to the test, and even my angel kind of said, "Don't be afraid to call on us, and we'll be there for you in a nanosecond." And I sometimes forget that actually, because I don't like, I'm too proud, too human, too egocentric sometimes. I don't like to have to live my life relying on invisible entities and angels. I like to think I have some agency and control over my own life and free will, and I don't like to be too reliant on God and the angels, the Fae, the ancestors that love me. I like to think that I'm, driving my own chariot and in control of my own destiny. But there are moments in time when you just need to be humble and say, "I need your help now. This is going to be more than I can handle as a little 5'3" hobbit woman in a dangerous environment where it's escalated out of control." And anyway, that's my story about my very real experience with what felt real to me, because I could feel the energy. My angel, although I didn't see him, I still haven't seen him. It'd probably freak me out if I saw him actually. But then angels appear as like beings of human-like beings for our benefit, actually, to protect our mind. They actually don't look like that at all. They're like wheels within wheels with lots and lots of eyes and revolving eyes, and actually very quite terrifying. So, but even seeing him in human form would still frighten me. I mean, even that medium that saw him, she just kept saying, "He's enormous, he's golden, who are you? And I said, nobody. I'm nobody. I'm not. Just walked my walk and followed my path all my life. Most of my life as a Jew, my Jewish traditions. In the last 10 years or so as a Jewish shaman, witch, because I reclaimed that side of my spiritual walk, and to be honest, it's been more grounding and more soul nourishing and more protective than ever. But I have every confidence and every faith that if I need to call upon either my wolf spirit or my angel, that they are there for me. And that might sound crazy to the uninitiated and mainstream people who don't believe in, metaphysical things. And I'm okay with that. Your crazy doesn't resonate with my crazy, and you'd never comprehend it in a zillion years because you don't have the soul growth and the evolution and haven't walked in my boots or cultural appropriation in my moccasins, and I'm okay with that. People who think like that haven't had a very vast reservoir of life experience, so they lack the imagination of what needs to be done sometimes to keep a soul here on planet Earth safe and even, quite miraculously. In 14 days' time, turning 60. That, my friends, even blows my mind because of the 15 near deaths or close shaves with death. So, anyway, I've decided to read from this book. I don't know whether I will read the entire book like I did with Flying with the Shamans. I found the Flying with the Shamans book quite wonderful, actually, and quite educational. But we'll see. I might, you know what I'm like. Once I get immersed in something and hyper-focused, then I forge ahead until the mission's completed. So I may read the entire book, but I'm not promising that, is what I'm saying. I've got quite a few other interesting books I'd like to share with you. I bought them specifically when I went to the Lifeline book fest just before Charlie died, actually. I went out and bought all these books knowing that I needed some more reading material to share with my YouTube audience because it's educational for you and it's reminders for me of our experiential awareness as we hurdy-gurdy through life's wonderful and magical journey. For some of us it's quite magical. And if you're on this channel watching my videos, you comprehend that I live and breathe and experience and love the magic of the multiverse as much as the nitty-gritty, factual, scientific aspect. The two, spirituality and science, not scientism, but science, are gradually moving closer and closer and recognizing deep truths merged within each other. And I'm happy to see that happening, actually. It's about bloody time. I highly recommend, by the way, I don't normally spruik other channels or other podcasters, but he's a very dear, kind soul who came to comfort me, actually, at one stage when I was a bit boigus about something that had happened on his podcast when he was still new. And he's a wonderful, kind soul and a highly intellectual soul and a wonderful man. Wouldn't mind meeting him in real life, him and his wife, of course. You know, lives in Canada, I believe. Kurt Jaimungal does the most fascinating podcasts about physics and mathematics. A lot of it's a bit over my head because I'm nowhere near as erudite and as intelligent as he and many of his guests are. So some of it's a little bit flying over my head. But I'm particularly loving your work, Kurt Jaimungal, on on aliens and ufology and asking the pertinent questions and getting the pertinent answers. It's something I've been passionate about all my life too. My mother was passionate about it too. So I recommend looking at his channel. What is in the channel? Well, no, I won't even say a particular. I'm watching a video at the moment, but I'm not sure I agree with everything that man has to say, to be honest. Sometimes I don't always agree. You're allowed to have your own ideas and opinions, and not everyone's going to agree. However, I recommend, I'm promoting Kurt Jaimungal's channel on YouTube. If you want a good, solid education for free, gifted by this man from the highest academics in their field, it's worth your time to watch. And you might not understand all of it depending on your level of education and understanding of the sciences, but it gives you a lot to chew on, like a hearty meal. It's very intellectually stimulating and satiating, quite wonderful. Here you come and you get from my channel my mad meanderings about my personal journey through life as a complex PTSD survivor, primarily the initial wounding and my growing up and growing through that, but all the time threaded through that was my experience with my angels and God and all manifestations, literally dragging me through life at times when life was not tenable and technically should not even have survived it. So you get the other extreme on my channel of the magical kind that is sweet and inspiring, but some of you don't believe in that, and I can't help you with that. That's your walk with your gods, or your atheism, or your closed in little box that you find yourself locked into because you feel safer not knowing about the grand cosmos and the grand design. Anyway, enough ranting and raving about that. It's the time now, 2:11 p.m. I saw 11:11 this morning and 1:11. So my angels are giving me the number sequences, which is cute little synchronicities. So let us begin the true tales of angel encounters, and I'll read the introduction to you, because why not? There, it's written. I have always been fascinated by angels ever since I was very young. Several times as a young child, I had encounters with spiritual beings, and ever since, excuse me, I have been certain that there are angels around us in the world. Quite frankly, not just angels, but all kinds of celestial and etheric and even earthly beings, energies. If you become conscious of angels, become conscious of everything, babies. Last year, as part of my ongoing research into the spiritual realm, I took out advertisements in a wide variety of publications and forums, asking people to send me accounts of their personal meetings with angels. Most such appeals produce an enthusiastic response, but in this case, the number of communications I received was simply overwhelming. I had thousands of emails, faxes, and letters with all kinds of stories and memories from people around the world. A large number of the accounts included here are taken from personal interviews or telephone conversations in which individuals gave me more detail about their experiences, as well as showing how strong the interest and belief in angels is. This fascinating experience reinforced my conviction that such a belief, one that cuts across all creeds and ages, can not be without foundation. All the major religions include accounts of higher spiritual beings, what I refer to here as angels. The Christian Church considers angels as both divine messengers and part of the heavenly host. Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism have their interpretations of angels. It is even more remarkable to observe that even the non-religious often believe in angels. The idea of angels is by no means restricted to those who have a firm religious faith or even a religious upbringing. Accounts of angels go far back into antiquity. They are referred to in the earliest books of the Bible and also in the most ancient scriptures of other religions. I'm not certain that we can ever know all there is to know about these mysterious beings, so it seems presumptuous to claim any knowledge that goes beyond mortal limits. However, I do believe that by comparing and contrasting the wide variety of historical sources, we can come up with a reasonably accurate picture of what angels are and how they relate to people. In this book, I share some first-hand accounts of angels, loosely arranged by subject. I'll also comment on the stories and speculate on what we can learn about angels. The accounts in this book are taken almost verbatim from the messages I received in the course of my research. Only minor changes have been made. My editors have standardized spelling and grammar and broken the stories into paragraphs where necessary, especially where I've taken the words from transcriptions of interviews rather than from letters or emails. In some cases, I've edited the stories down to a more compact length. Oh, you know what? Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to continue with that. Let's just cut to the stories. Mama T ain't got no time for that. No offence to the author, but just decided I don't have the energy to invest in reading that whole thing. Let's cut to the actual angel stories. So the first chapter is titled All About Angels. What are angels and why do they communicate with us? It seems certain, based on the quantity of accounts from across the centuries and from all over the world, that there is such a thing as an angel, a spiritual presence that is able to make itself known to people. Those who believe in or practice a religion will have their own views as to how angels relate to people. Presumably, as spiritual creatures, they are closer to Him than. Sorry, I've skipped a line. Isn't that interesting? Right, let's go back. Those who believe in or practice a religion will have their own views as to how angels relate to God. Presumably, as spiritual creatures, they are closer to Him than people are and can act as messengers and agents of divine will. In fact, the word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which may well be a translation of the Hebrew word malach, which means messenger. This etymology suggests a being that carries messages between the human world and other realms of existence. Humankind is a mixture of the spiritual and the earthly. We are physical beings, earthbound in our perceptions and actions. But we have a spiritual aspect. Our consciousness of ourselves and our perceptions of spirituality and divinity are reflections of the spiritual side of our nature. It seems that, as spiritual beings, angels have some interest in us, perhaps even a sort of fascination with us. Indeed. Perhaps they see us as we see children, simple beings who may be unable to perceive everything about the world in which they live, but who are deserving of our support and guidance by virtue of their very innocence. Perhaps angels are bound to us in ways we cannot comprehend. Perhaps they are executing the will of God by tending to the flawed human race. Whatever the truth is, it's clear that angels can sometimes communicate with us, both directly and indirectly, and they can also intervene in our lives, which I have experienced multiple times, often quite chillingly and terrifyingly so, at the brink of my own almost death. My angel protector has frequently stepped in at the very last, mind you, my infamous 11th hour. My friend Lynn Sloan jokes with me about how I will actually be at the point of submitting to death itself and reaching acceptance and just letting go when something literally saved me. Not just on one occasion, but multiple occasions, especially to the astonishment of my attackers. I don't think they had the spiritual acumen to even understand what had happened actually. But some force made them step back and cease in my attempted murder. So, the last few occasions, that force came from within my own being. So, all I can think is somehow having been touched by my angels on multiple occasions, I have now found a way to tap into my own power in emergency situations, which is quite humbling and astonishing. But I don't count on that. I count only on God and all manifestations of holiness and their energies, angels, because I've seen I've seen the miracles and their power running like a golden thread through my life since a very, very, very young age, 6 months of age, when we had the landslide and half my bedroom slipped down the hill and I should have gone with it. Protected even then at 6 months of age. So it's an old trope that I trot out in my classically earthy, rough, vulgar, vernacular ways. Never fuck with a Tanya. I have supernatural protection. But I stumble along, struggling through life with all my trauma issues and limitations, which yesterday I was reminded are expanding, improving with age. Like fine wine, people of earth, and developing a more powerful, more loving, more trusting relationship with my gods and or angels, however you want to frame that metaphysical referencing, maybe even the fae. And I'm learning to navigate through life knowing that at all times, morning, noon and night, I'm supported and I'm loved. Doesn't mean that I don't struggle like everyone else on planet Earth right now, especially with what's been going on in recent years. But when push comes to shove, I have that little bit of extra je ne sais quoi gifted from the higher realms. And I don't even know why I've been chosen in that way, because it hasn't made my life easy or all that safe or peaceful, but it's just something I had to grow through and grow from and keep building my life. I'm still building my life at almost 60. My beautiful life, I keep saying. I'm building, creating, manifesting, wanting my true loving partner. Well, my angels have a lot to say about that, don't they? They keep me on my own, I think, for a higher reason, and I suffer for it. I suffer for it immensely. It's not actually what I wanted, especially at this phase of my life as I enter, the next decade of getting older and potentially frailer and more vulnerable than ever before. My angels won't allow me to become vulnerable though. I know that for a fact. I've seen what happens recently when I had that very bad injury, when I should have been deeply vulnerable and running to the hospital for tetanus injections and antibiotics and being weak and pathetic. Something stepped in and said, no, this is a full-blown spiritual attack and you're going to fight it in every aspect of your being without any other physical interference except for a bit of arnica and a few Panadol for the first couple of days. That was driven by my higher mind, my angels, to prove to me how powerful I actually am. Although, let's not push it too far. I don't welcome any more nasty cuts to my body or invasions of my body autonomy, consensually or non-consensually, that are life-threatening or damaging to me. By the gods. Quite done with that. Look, the sun's pushed itself out and it's shining on my banana trees that are covered in raindrops, and they all look like little diamantes have been glued to the, just in my imagination, have been glued to the banana leaves. Oh well, the sun's pushing through, people of Earth. It's pushing through. I think it'll be a nice day tomorrow. It's fighting its way through. Do angels have wings? Well, my angel, I felt the whoosh of the wings opening and the breeze that would blow from said wings. So my angel that comes to protect me seemingly has wings, but maybe it's not actual wings, but just this energy that felt like a breath or a wind blowing through. So maybe I only, anthropomorphized it as wings. Because as I said, I couldn't see it. I could only feel the atmosphere change around me. I actually heard with my physical ears this whoosh. Don't know if anyone else around me heard it, but I heard it. So it was right next to me. So, people who have had encounters with angels sometimes perceive them as winged and gracious creatures resembling humans, their traditional image. This is far from being the most common vision, however. Others simply report seeing a white light, feeling a strong presence, or meeting a strange person, or even an animal that helped them or communicated with them. Surprisingly, almost all references to angels in the Bible are to wingless beings that have taken on the form of a man. Abraham Avinu, Abraham our father, the father of Judaism. He invented Judaism actually, destroyed all his father's Laban's idols and gods, smashed them all, and said, now we will worship only one God, which happened way, way back in ancient Chaldea and Ur in, is it Chaldeans? Ur in the Chaldeans, somewhere near Iraq. That's where Judaism actually began. And when he saw angels, they appeared as three men walking towards him, except he noticed that they didn't quite so much as walk as glided. They didn't have wings, they just looked like ordinary mortal men when they came to warn him that they were going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's interesting that in early biblical references they didn't have wings but appeared as mortals. I guess when you're an angel you can appear in any form you feel like though. The only exceptions are the cherubim and the seraphim, which are described specifically as never leaving God's side in heaven, and one mention of a winged. But see, I don't believe that because I think my angel is a seraphim. I think, can't be certain. So I don't know, I'm not so sure about that. But anyway, we'll go on with her description. And one mention of a winged female angel in the Old Testament. Non-Christian mythology has rather more mentions of winged women and children as angels. Cupid, for one example, depicted with that little monster that, it always bites me on the arse, and it's always some bloody unavailable man, trickster spirit, which is not so bad at the moment, but historically, it would always pick the worst possible, most life-threatening fucking monster for me. That's why I'm still very broken and damaged and still building my beautiful life, people of Earth. Anyway, little Cupid, that sweet chubby little angel, depicted with wings and a bow and arrows with which he shoots lovers. They're yelling out, the one, Tanya, The one. Yes, I know. You keep stirring me up about the one. But I don't have the one at the moment. There is no one for me at the moment because none of them are available. There is only one I love deeply and can't have, so that too is fucking evil and a cruelty, to be honest. But I have the many loving me in the clubs and music venues and being very sweet and kind to me. So the Holy One is sending me so much love and kindness and sweetness and affection. But what do I actually need a man for, by the way? Starting to wonder. Maybe it's the best possible outcome for me to not have a man who might ultimately turn savage on me or lie to me and deceive or cheat on me or put his hands on my throat and try to kill me like historically happened in the past. Or the last one, 10 years ago, that was so sadomasochistic and vicious that his idea of entertainment was trawling all his floozies right up in my face, literally right up my right nostril. Oh, that was callow and vicious and awful too. So why would I want the one? I do. You've seen it in all my videos, constantly praying for the one. Well, I'm not praying for him anymore. The one will come to me when they're good and ready and it's the appropriate time, guided and protected by my angels, with harm to none and competition with none. And he will demonstrate pure of heart, sincere intentions, in words and deeds and actions and energy, but particularly be a good communicator, that he is the right person for me, my person, my man who loves me completely, even with my cumulative damage and my complex PTSD, which is it's fucking boring, but it is what it is, and my weird spiritual walk and my short fat hobbit body and my wild moshing dancing and my weird shamanic ways. He will just love me no matter what, no matter who, and choose me each and every time by his own heart, mind, body, spirit, intellect and emotions. Soul belongs to God, but with his soul too, a soulmate, and he's destined to come to me. Soul was prophesied to me 30 fucking years ago. I was told in my 60th year, which I'm almost at the end of my 60th year, about to turn 60, so into my 61st year. But I'm okay if whoever is meant to be with me is running a bit late, because space-time and destiny and fate, everything comes to those who wait. And also it needs to be a truly good and kind and loyal and faithful and devoted man, because with all my immense suffering, I cannot settle for anything less than that, even though sometimes I get, romantic and a bit silly and wish for things that, wishing and yearning and hoping. It's a hobby, people. It's a hobby. Not a very productive one either. Look at me sitting here reading about angels on YouTube. Honestly. But anyway, it's perfectly fine. It's my soul journey. It's where I'm at the moment in time. Everything will make perfect sense when I enter the next dimension at the time appointed by God and the angels and Santa Muerte. Anyway, furthermore, Medieval and Renaissance paintings, and Victorian ones that derived from them, often depicted angels as having wings. The traditional image of the winged angel may have arisen over the centuries as a literal interpretation of the idea that angels are ethereal and able to fly. Do they really fly though, or do they just blip in and out of our ordinary reality in a nanosecond? I guess flying is a poetic way to describe it. It also may have been influenced by early attempts to portray heaven in physical terms as a place in the sky. Angels are thus intermediaries between down here and up there. But who's to say that heaven is far up in the sky? It could be right next to us in a parallel universe, am I right? Heaven's what you make of it. Starts with head space sometimes. Mindset can create your own heaven and your own hell. Lived that one too. Not wittingly though, not willfully creating my own hell, but I've lived through hell on this planet. I really have. I've fought through with the help of my angels. What could be more natural than to envision them as great winged beings? It seems safe to conclude, based on first-hand accounts. Bloody lips appearing again. You've got it. That angels can choose to be visible or invisible to people, and that when they are visible, the form they take can vary widely. So my angel that came to show their presence that night in the pub at Irish Murphy's, showed his presence, well, I presume it's a him, to that woman, that psychic woman, appeared as a 9-foot tall, golden, blonde, radiating golden light with massive 12-foot span wings. Why did they choose that form? I don't know, but that was how they revealed themselves. If the person to whom they wish to make themselves known will recognise or accept them more easily in traditional form, perhaps this influences their choice of appearance. In any case, if we are lucky enough ever to have an angelic encounter, it is only a closed mind that will fail to recognise its spiritual nature indeed. It kind of is a form of ontological shock, especially when me, with my background as a Jew, reading about angels all my life and in the Torah, Torah readings every Shabbat and temple, reading about and learning about the angels and their names and their various energies associated with them. It's very different reading about something and actually experiencing it and or seeing it. It's a very different sensation. It's quite humbling and astonishing. Do we become angels when we die? Personally, I don't believe so, but I guess for some people who have been particularly saintly people on earth, it might be potentiate. I don't know who gets to make that decision, whether you get your wings or not. But let's read and find out. The idea that we become angels after we die is a relatively recent concept. Films such as It's a Wonderful Life have had a powerful effect in making popular the idea that there is continuity between the worlds of humans and angels. But Frank Capra didn't invent this idea for the character of Clarence. It has been around in one form or other from at least the 2nd century CE, which is 200 years after that energy called Jesus allegedly existed. You just dance around that delicately. I'm not saying he didn't, I'm just saying I have doubts about all of that. But anyway, doesn't mean I have doubts though about God and the angels, and that there were many enlightened ones, Jesus being just one of them. I'm not discounting that, just saying the story around it is full of holes like Swiss cheese if you really study it properly and with an open mind. As in an early text called The Martyrdom of Polycarp, it's interesting because I read about that Pope Polycarp, or was he a Pope or a Cardinal? Cardinal, I think, recently on YouTube, didn't I? In one of the other, the Mysteries of the Unexplained book, he came up. Isn't he the one that they tried to burn to death and he just shone like molten silver and gold and came out of it unscathed? This is undoubtedly related to the idea that people have spirits that can persist after death. This may be true, but I believe there is still a clear distinction between angels and human spirits. Yes, I think so too. Certainly some of the accounts I have included in this book seem to be referring to a being that is closer to a spirit, an earthbound human soul, or a spirit guide, an ascended soul, than an angel. Sorry, I'm twitching because my skin feels like it's peeling, but I had salt and vinegar chippies yesterday, which I'm craving again, and sometimes the acid makes the inside of my cheek linings or mouth linings peel. I'm thinking that's what's going on. So if you see me doing this, it's driving me fucking crazy, people are there. Here I am stuck in this physical form and reading about angels, and that decides to play havoc. It's odd. Sources such as the Bible seem to indicate that angels in fact predate people. I would think so too. And that there is no such thing as progress from the human state to an angelic state. I wouldn't presume to be able to clear up such an enduring uncertainty, but I would say this: my personal belief is that angels are a distinct kind of being, and that even if our spirits survive in this world after our death, as opposed to surviving in an afterlife, this is a different phenomenon altogether than meetings with angels. If you feel you have communicated with angels, or that you have been in touch with loved ones after their death, you will probably have your own opinion on this. But the weight of historical ideas and religious interpretation does tend toward the idea that angels and people are separate creatures, and that the relatively recent belief that people become angels after death is a misunderstanding. I would concur with that, except I see no reason why it might happen in rare circumstances, such as a particularly saintly person that God decides is worthy of creating into an angel. I don't think that would happen very often, but I think it has been known to happen in very odd, unusual circumstances. I think there is some kind of biblical references that I base that on, or I've heard about it somewhere. I know that I'm no angel, absolutely flawed and can be quite dark at times, incorporating my yin and my yang, but I would never profess to be an angel, but I do profess that I have angelic protection at times, has been gifted to me, many times actually. But that doesn't make me an angel, it just makes me, I don't know what, someone capital S was determined that I walk this earth and live this life and tell you these stories in this moment in time. And last night danced my wild dance and be wild and free and a little bit eccentric and odd, quite frankly. But someone has been for nigh 60 years very determined that I stay in this body, in this form, in this mind and spirit and soul complex on this planet. Kind of trapped here in Brisbane, Australia, which every now and then I have a tantrum about. My dream has always been to travel the world and see all the sacred and holy sites and fascinating tourist destinations as well, but I lack the money for that. Oh, without sarcasm, genuinely, oh. But look at all the beautiful experiences and the wonderful people I have met. Even last night showing me such sweetness. You know, I pointed up to the security camera because I know they're watching everything around that table where I sit and dance. There were some deaf people partying with me last night, and the woman was particularly rambunctious and OTT and out of control, and I was being quite tolerant actually, given that they were all deaf. I figured, well, we're just having fun, and they're already fucking struggling with not being able to hear and communicate easily with me as a hearing person because I don't speak sign language, and decided to be very patient and tolerant. But she was a pain in my ass, that girl. She really was. She ended up throwing her arms around me and hugging me. She was a loving girl, very loving young woman. But at one point she, in her rambunctiousness, she was a big girl like me, you know, chunky mama, knocked over a full glass of, I don't know what it was, but anyway, it was bloody water, liquid everywhere. So I pointed up to the security camera and then I pointed down to the table and I just went, and it was non-verbally for the camera. And the deaf girl's like, what are you doing? I went, I want it cleaned up. Even she was a bit surprised. She knew I wasn't happy with her because it was the second drink she'd lopped over. I'm like, no, this is getting annoying now. Now you're annoying me. Mama T's getting annoyed, which I do. Anyway, one of the managers, Adam, came over with a cloth and started wiping it all up. So when he finished, I said, oh, thank you so much, Adam. So I just want to walk around the table, make sure the floor's not wet. He was very kind because he knows I often get drinks poured on my clothing and then I really get angry and upset. But anyway, it didn't affect me because it just went on the table. It wasn't on I wasn't lathered in, drinks. But anyway, it was very sweet. And I said, thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate it. I just like the table to be dried off and cleaned. It was very kind. And then he said, he looked at me. He's a very handsome young man. And we don't normally connect that often because I don't like to be too obsequious or solicitous with management, because they've got to keep that level of distance. They're in their position as managing the club and in their professional capacity. So I like to keep that little bit of a wall. It's not a nasty wall, like I'm not blockading, excluding them in any way, but just keep that level of professionalism. Because I'm there in my professional capacity of supporting the bands with my crazy performance art and my dance. And they know that. They accept that is what I'm there for primarily. So they've got used to me and my quirky ways. Except the bit about the taking my glass of ice away. All that grinds my gears. But anyway, I wrote about that this morning, which was quite comical. Anyway, so Adam looks at me and he just looks at me really heartfelt. He says, "You look beautiful this evening, Tanya." Just taken aback, I was quite astonished, getting such a wonderful compliment from the manager, one of the managers, and kind of out of left field, it was just very sweet and heartfelt. And then he took my hand and he kissed my hand in this very Victorian, courtly gesture, and again I was like, quite heartfelt. I said, "Oh, thank you, that's so lovely of you." But it just showed me, I actually, because I keep that bit of a barrier, I actually thought that young man didn't like me all that much, quite frankly. But he was just civil to me because he's just doing his job, But that showed me real sweetness and heartfelt kind of affection and attention last night. So I don't think he watches my videos, but many people that go to that club do. So now you all know that I was really thrilled. So to you, Adam, for your sweetness last evening. And yes, for cleaning up the table, because that girl was a pain in my ass. And I didn't want to get her kicked out because they were just being playful and silly. I've spilled drinks on my day. Accidents happen. But he kind of said to me, "Did this just happen? It's been like this for a while." And I didn't want to get into trouble, so I just said, "Oh, it's been fairly recently," and I just sort of drifted on. He knew. But anyway, but that was quite wonderful. People were so sweet and kind to me last night. So as I sail into soon to be turning 60, I'm just being soaked in so much love and sweetness, which is delightful. And especially since I took a very bad dive after that injury into a very bad, dark, primal, fierce warrior goddess spiritual warfare space, which of course then triggered, a bit of quite hefty depression. And I've ridden through it and I'm coming out the other end, supported by my wonderful friends and acquaintances and people out in my music scene. To you all. The other beautiful thing was when Reilly arrived, and she arrived about 1 in the morning. She often arrives towards the end of the gig, round about the third set. Must have been about 1ish. And I haven't seen her for about 8 or 10 weeks. And she arrived and looked at me, and I said, she kind of interrupted my mosh, but anyway, I was kind of moshing away, I can't remember what song, and then I saw her and I went, Hayley, my darling, where have you been? It's been weeks and weeks. And I stopped my dancing, put my arms around her, gave her a hug and a kiss. And then we resumed dancing side by side. And then she yelled out, "It's so wonderful to be around such positive, uplifting energy and good energy." And I was like, oh. And that's how it felt last night. The energy was powerful and positive and uplifting. And did me the power of good, actually. I'm really quite happy. Quite happy. Very happy. So, let us continue. What different religions tell us about angels? Getting very hot though, and it's on 22 degrees. Let's just have a little bit of a zhuzh. A little bit of a zhuzhy, babies. The mama tea's getting hot, 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 hot. Sometimes it's spiritual energy too, you know, menopause and spiritual energy. My hair's looking really good at the moment, don't you think? Considering that I did the wash last night, should be all sweaty and lank and awful. This is how I know I'm getting healthier and stronger, because my hair's improving. When I'm not well, it gets all lank and oily and I look all half fucking dead and morose and it's awful. It's really awful. So the mama tea's building up to 60 by the grace of her gods and her angels. We're going to have a wonderful birthday as well. So there was that. The idea of messengers from the spiritual world is present in virtually all. By the way, if I don't have a wonderful birthday, which I will be a bit devastated about, but if I don't, I'm okay with that, because I've had a wonderful few weeks. Like last weekends have been quite wonderful. So much love flow to me. So whatever happens, happens. It's meant to be. But please God, I hope I have a nice birthday. I really do. Anyway, let us begin again. The idea of I know it's sad. Well, I'm on my own. What else have I got to look forward to? My once a year jaunt around planet Earth. That celebration of existence, which is all it really is. Celebration of survival, stomping around this planet. 6 decades. The idea of messages from the spiritual world is present in virtually all religions, no matter how ancient. One might even consider the animal spirit guides in Native American or pagan cultures, to be primitive representations of angels. I don't agree with that. Animal spirit guides are animal spirits. I guess an angel could become an animal spirit if it wanted to, but it can't go the other way around. Or can they? Because I did say earlier that very saintly humans could attain to being angels one day. Maybe certain animals that are so pure of heart and spirit are capable of it too. So no, maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, the earliest known depictions of winged human-like figures come from the Sumerian culture, which flourished around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq, Ur of the Chaldeans, where Abraham Avinu came from. Later on, post-Sumerian, I think that was. I'm not sure. Which flourished around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq in about 3000 BCE. Mm. The Sumerians had a complicated polytheistic religion. But it is fascinating to discover that they believed in messengers of the gods, angelic figures who took messages between the gods and humans, and who ran errands for the gods. The Sumerians believed that each person had a ghost, what we would call a guardian angel, that stayed with that person throughout his or her life. Although mine's taken up smoking and is possibly an alcoholic by now, in the etheric realms, if there was such a thing as the ambrosia of the gods, I've driven them quite mad. It's refusing to die thing. It's been a bit exhausting and astonishing even by my standards, and I've got to live in this body, so eek, eek. That's why I'm looking forward to my beautiful life where I'm no longer living under constant chronic threat and just getting old gracefully, peacefully and gracefully, surrounded by my true loving partner, our friends and our family and our community and or tribe and our wider cosmos. That's my manifestation, people of Earth. Silly as it may seem, it's not an unreasonable thing to wish for, given most people have already achieved that by the time they first get married when they're young, but mine got hijacked by evil beyond belief from a very early phase, which is why sometimes I do get a little bit bitter at what was stolen out from under me by evildoers. But anyway, on we go and on we go. What we would call a guardian angel that stayed with that person throughout his or her life. They dedicated altars to these beings. And decorated temple walls with paintings of winged human figures. Semitic tribes conquered the Sumerians around 1900 BCE and took these beliefs further, developing the idea that angels could be ranked and subdivided into categories, an idea which persisted into later Western religions. The concept of messengers from the gods almost certainly goes back further than Sumerian culture, but this is the earliest point at which we can identify the idea clearly. The first and second millennia before Christ gave rise to some fascinating religious developments spread across the Middle East, and Indian subcontinent, were various forms of the Mithras cult. Mithras, who was venerated in these cults, at times seems closer to the concept of a guardian angel than that of a god. He is described as a friend and a messenger, as well as being a representative of the sun god on earth. Zoroastrianism, which developed out of Mithraism in the Persian Empire in approximately 500 BCE, clearly described Mithras as a being who mediated between heaven and earth. The same concept was present in early Hinduism. The Rig Veda, one of the earliest Hindu texts, ascribed very similar qualities to Mithra, who appears to be the same as Mitra, who appears to be the same as Mithras. It is worth mentioning in passing that Mithras, as a sun god, also influenced later Greek beliefs, including many of the ideas about Helios, the sun god, who was regularly depicted as having a halo. This is why the image of the halo was actually avoided in early Christian art as being pagan in origin, but later Christian artists brought the image back, thus its more recent association with saints and angels. Zoroastrianism's basic folk beliefs clearly fed into Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and this is especially true of how it described angels. For the Zoroastrians, there were 6 archangels. The archangels of good thought, right, dominion, piety, prosperity, and immorality, along with the various lower ranks of angels. All were described as being male or female and associated with particular qualities. Lower down the order, were guardian angels assigned as protectors and guides throughout each person's life. This is one of the earliest clear descriptions of guardian angels, even though it is obvious in earlier cosmologies that people had encountered angels throughout antiquity. Judaism carried on a similar description of the existence of angels. Early Judaism went to increasing lengths to categorize and name as many angels as possible. Both the canonical and apocryphal books of the Torah and Old Testament, well, the Old Testament is the Torah and the Mishnah and the Talmud as well, but anyway, are full of mentions of angels and demons. Looking a bit tired, people are there. Well, I've only had about 6 hours sleep, but I had a lovely time, as I said earlier, but looking a bit black-eyed Susan there. Anyway, not literally though, no one's given me any black eyes, but just getting a bit weary. Later on, the Kabbalists took a particular interest in angels and demons and described them in great detail. By the time of Jesus, people's belief in angels was already an established fact. Christian theology inherited concepts relating to angels from Judaism, as well as adding elements from Greek tradition. Angels are mentioned more than 300 times in the Bible, described as workers and messengers of God who work in both heaven and earth. Angels who are named include Gabriel, the messenger who gave Mary the news that she was to bear the divine child. Pardon me. Interesting that I chose to birth at that moment, but anyway. It's the story, that's how it went. And Michael, the archangel. Other angels mentioned include the 2 men who warned, it was 2 men, not 3 men, so I stand corrected there. thought it was 3 men. Anyway, who warned Lot of Sodom and Gomorrah's impending destruction. So I got that wrong too. I said they warned Abraham, but it was Lot. Told him to take his family and leave the city because they were about to destroy it. The multitude who announced Christ's arrival to the shepherds, and the angel who escorted John in the book of Revelations and defeated Satan. Angels comforted Jesus at the Garden of Gethsemane on the evening before his crucifixion. Although there's a lot to be said about what went on in the Garden of Gethsemane. Boys with drug-soaked linen attached to their penis. Just saying. See also Dr. Ammon Hillman's lectures, which I find fascinating actually. Makes a lot of sense, the history of that religion. Certainly makes more sense than, well, let's just say it just joins a lot of dots up for me about certain attitudes towards little children, just saying. Angels comforted, I read that. Abraham and Lot both met with angels. An angel wrestles with Jacob and guides Tobit. Finally, it was an angel, so maybe I'm right that it was 3 angels that Abraham saw, since I've conflated the stories with Lot and Abraham. I'm fairly certain it was 3 angels that Abraham welcomed to his tent with great hospitality, and for that he was blessed. Finally, it was an angel at the empty tomb who announced Christ's resurrection. There's a lot could be said about that too, but I won't. I'll let people have their dogma and their faith and whatever comforts them. Who am I to take that from them? It's just certain things that I was never comfortable with that now make perfect sense. That's all I'm going to say about that. Guardian angels are also mentioned in both the Old and New Testaments as beings that protect individuals or nations. Indeed. So, over the centuries, the Christian Church has continued to venerate angels and to regard demons as the source of temptation and evil. The idea that Lucifer, which is put in brackets Satan, they are not actually the same entity, by the way. Shows a lack of knowledge there. Was a fallen angel, has a particular fascination as it ascribes angelic status to the dark side of humanity and makes a connection between Lucifer and God before the fall. Milton's Paradise Lost and Dante's Divine Comedy are just 2 of the great literary works that talk of the communications and meetings between mankind and the angels. Could also describe what happened with John Dee in Renaissance times, actually, forming his own Enochian language and communicating, which became the impetus or what's the word? What's the word I'm struggling for? The strike, the flint strike that became the foundation of the British Empire was John Dee communicating with angels Is it good or is it bad? Ask any indigenous culture on earth in that time frame, whether that was an angel or a demon. It's all relative. It's all relative, people of earth, to how you were treated ultimately and what happened to your culture and your spiritual practices and your language and your connection to our earth. Something to think about. We find related concepts in other religions. The Hindu tradition has angelic beings called devas. Buddhists have nuts or nats, N-A-T-S, nuts. In Tibetan Buddhism, when I don't know how to pronounce something, I just do this weird shrug. If I don't know, I don't know. Well, the Tibetan Buddhist is going, oh, Tanya, really? Really? Yes, really, I really don't know. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are more elevated angelic beings called Dakini. I have heard of them. Islam. I've heard of devas too, just haven't heard of nats or nuts. Islam, which originated about 600 years after Christ, retained the idea of angels from Zoroastrianism, Judaism and Christianity. I quite like Zoroastrianism actually. I find that fascinating religion. It is said that God revealed the Quran. Since I drive around in a car named after Ahura Mazda with a number plate that equates to the Ein Sof in Gematria, it's one of those cosmic little jokes that God played on me. You have to laugh. But I'm no angel, don't get me wrong. I'm just conscious that, my tattoo as well, that I got before I inherited that car, by the way. The just brought all that, drew all that cosmic godliness and power and potency to me in September 2012. And I've been on quite a journey ever since then, actually. Quite a spiritual journey. Almost cost me my life on a few more occasions since 2012, but here we are, babies. I'm walking with my God in my own weird, rebellious, defiant, quirky, unusual way, but I don't forget who I am in relation to the Holy One in all manifestations, even though I'm not practicing as a traditional Jew, Reformed Jew anymore. It is said that God revealed the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. Someone just yelled out, "You will, maybe one day again, if I can find a congregation that I can sit amongst without having my skin feel like it's going to crawl off because of the immense hypocrisy and evil that I found there. If I find a congregation like that, then I will return one day to Reformed Judaism, because I loved it. I really genuinely loved it. It is said that God revealed the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad via the angel Gabriel. In Islamic tradition, there are 4 archangels: Jibreel, Mikael, Israfil, and Israel, who can often act in Allah's stead. Given a fair bit more power than they would have in, Judeo-Christian frames of reference. A class of recording angels is called the Kiram al-Katibin. Popular Islamic tradition says that each person has a pair of scribe angels, one on the right side who records good deeds, and one on the left who makes a note of any bad deeds. A lower order of angels is the jinn, or the genie. I'm not sure if they're angels though. They're fae. They're definitely fairy elemental creatures. Creatures of plasma, coming from a kind of a plasma dimension of light. Are they angels though? Perhaps. I'll have to ask a Muslim person. I'll ask Rati. Rati might be able to tell me. She's quite well versed in her faith. She kind of smiles at me like this nervously. Whenever I mention the genie, I joke that there's a genie in my laptop that plays havoc with it from time to time. It's been very well behaved today, so it's odd. It just depends, I guess, on its mood. Having said that, it'll probably jinx me and cut us off now, so if we get blipped off, it's because I mentioned the genie in my laptop. I'm not joking, I'm perfectly serious about that. Created quite a bit of havoc yesterday. When one looks at the history of angels and religion, it's immediately apparent how consistent the descriptions of the angelic realm are across millennia and across huge expanses of the globe. From Native Americans to Asian tribes to the earliest known inhabitants of the Middle East and Europe, religions have described angels as messengers from the world of pure spirit and as agents of divine intervention, and have talked about guardian angels that take a particular interest in individual people's lives. It seems unlikely that this kind of consistency could exist simply because the religions have influenced one another in certain respects. For example, there could have been little communication between ancient Hindu and northern Russian cultures. Yet there are clear similarities in the way they talk about the angelic realm. The consistent pattern we see can only be explained by the fact that all these different religions are trying to describe and explain the experiences of real people throughout history, people who have met angels, who have been rescued or influenced by angelic interventions, and who have shared their stories with each other. Religious orthodoxy has merely incorporated the reality of folk traditions and of people's everyday lives. If anything, experiences with angels and divine beings could even be seen as the starting point of religion. In mankind's encounters with angels, we have our most immediate contact with the world of spirit, and they reveal to us that there is more to life than the physical world. Naming the angels. Religions such as Judaism and Christianity have made many attempts to categorize the angels with detailed lists of the angels' names and of the various classes of angels. It is open to discussion whether this quest can ever be successful. The angels reveal themselves to people only in a selective and unpredictable way, and no matter how hard we try to divine the truth about them, it may simply be impossible. It is nonetheless interesting to look at the ways in which people have tried to document the angelic realm. In Christian tradition, the order of angels was formalized in the 5th century, that's after Jesus' death, by Saint Dionysius the Areopagite, Areopagite in the celestial hierarchy. He ranked the types of angels as follows. I need to Google what an Areopagite even is, because I can't even bloody well pronounce it. And on top of that, I have no idea what it is. So here we go, people. Areopagite. You see, we get a wonderful education, including Mama T. Was an Athenian judge at the Areopagus court in Athens. So it's Areopagite refers to the place where he came from. A member of the Areopagus, a judicial council of ancient Athens that met on the hill of that name. Right, because I have to know things. You know, it grinds my gears. I can't stand not knowing things. I'm going to barely pronounce something, I have to actually know what it is I'm trying to barely pronounce. People know. He ranked the names of angels as follows. First choir, seraphim, and then beneath them, cherubim, virtues. Second choir, dominions, and beneath them, archangels, thrones. Third choir, principalities, and beneath that, powers, angels. Traditionally, it has been believed that the first choir remains in heaven and contemplates the goodness of God. That's their sole purpose. Just hanging around with the big guy upstairs, the creator of, or the girl maybe, God and the angels. Well, some angels have gender, but God has no gender. I don't believe that for one moment. That is creator. That's my philosophy. I'm not telling you what to believe, that's how I feel about it. Anyway, creator just is surrounded by the seraphim all day long, praising him. Oh, and him or her. See, him out of habit. See, I can't help myself. It's conditioning. But praising the creator all day long, every day, all night, day and night, for eternity, the seraphim and the cherubim in service to the Godhead. And the second choir regulates the running of the universe, while the third choir are those who are most closely linked to the affairs of humans. This listing clearly reflects medieval theology with its emphasis on categories and hierarchies. The fact that the third choir includes principalities, which have responsibility for nations, tribes, towns, and cities, is interesting to contemplate, because everything has its own ultimate destiny or fate, as the case may be. Not always very nice ones either, if you happen to be in Sodom and Gomorrah at the time, or, the colonisation of British and Indigenous nations across the world. Not very nice fates for the people that didn't share that belief structure or system. Changed history almost overnight, wiped entire peoples out. So principalities indeed, sometimes not very good ones, depending on the final outcome, which is a depressing thought at times. It really is. History is always written by the victor. Remember that. If this is accurate, it implies that such political distinctions are innate parts of the ordering of the universe. It also implies that heaven's relationship to the human world is rather like that of a distant imperial capital to its provinces. This concept would have made absolute sense to those in the Middle Ages who had no other way of thinking about the world. But it does raise the question of whether this list of ranks is based more on human experience and extrapolation than it is on actual knowledge, which I think is a fair comment there. We can find many other details about angels in scripture and apocryphal religious texts. Here is a list of the archangels. Enoch 1, ranked from 1 to 7. Uriel, Raphael, Raguel, Michael, Zerachiel, Gabriel, Remiel. Enoch 3, again ranked from 1 to 7. Michael, Gabriel, Shatki, Baradiel, Shachakiel, Barakiel, Sidriel. Christian Gnostics, ranked from 1 to 7. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, Barachiel, Seal, Sealtiel, and Yehudiel. My goodness. Someone just yelled out in Hebrew, Labriut, which is Hebrew for bless you when you sneeze. We know who that someone is, so we're just going to ignore him. He needs to stop pretending he's in the movie The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, or in his case, The Ghost and Ms. Tanya Desiree Aarons. He needs to shuffle off and get away from me and stop interfering in my love life, which he thinks he's helping, but it's odd. Here comes the sunshine again, piercing through that grey misery that I've been staring at for days. Told you the sun was coming, didn't I? Mama T always knows. She's a weather witch. Elsewhere we find the following types of angels listed: healing angels, cleric angels, angels of judgment, angels of announcement, angel of death, angel of mercy, angel of music, angel of punishment, fallen angel, half angel, accusing angel, Nephilim, overseer, reaper, warrior angel. You can also find directories of the angels, giving details of their names, their attributes, and their personal preferences in books or on the internet. Perhaps this is contradictory, but my feeling is that when we see lists of these sorts, we should be simultaneously open-minded and skeptical. We should be skeptical because there was a great tendency in medieval theology and philosophy to see categorization as a substitute for thinking. Following Aristotle, many thinkers devoted great energy to the production of detailed subdivisions of all aspects of heaven and earth. Picking up energy at the moment, it's just standing behind me, right behind the middle part of my spine, and it's just kind of buzzing like a giant bee. It's odd. It's an unusual sensation, to be honest. It's even go right up through my neck. Oh, well, someone's here. We won't pay too much attention to it though, because I'm reading my stories about angels to my YouTube audience and my subscribers. And I was on a mission. Every now and then we get these little visitations, so just have to work through it, people of Earth. Right, where were we? Let me go back. I've lost where I was. That buzzing just threw me off my spot. Right, where are we? Let me just look back here. So I read that we should be simultaneously open-minded and skeptical. We should be skeptical because there was a great tendency in medieval theology and philosophy to see categorization as a substitute for thinking. Following Aristotle, many thinkers devoted great energy to the production of detailed subdivisions of all aspects of heaven and earth. Certain numbers such as 7 and 9 were seen as magical, especially by the Gnostics and alchemists, but also by others who should have known better, and thus many important areas were divided into numerically suitable categories: 7 archangels, 7 spheres, the 7 seas, 7 ranks of angels, 9 realms of heaven and earth, and so on. This kind of list in particular seems very much a throwback to that kind of thinking. Furthermore, the world of spirit is something that has always attracted a certain element of charlatanism indeed. It's very, very moth-eaten with that, isn't it? Can't stand charlatans. Find them abhorrent, evil and foul and debased. My mother was one. Babies. She did have some very valid gifts, but she was greedy and corrupt and say the most cruel things in readings to people in the 90s. I was deeply embarrassed by that. Couldn't do a damn thing about it, but it was awful. Things she used to tell me that she was saying to her, you know, people coming to her for guidance or for readings were just shocking. That's how I realised she was really had become quite evil. The older she got, the more evil she became. Maybe she'd always been evil though and was just good at masking it earlier in the piece. I don't know. Can't comprehend it, to be honest. Because it is an unknowable world, there will always be those who will try to earn our reverence by claiming to know more about it than is humanly possible. This makes me suspect that some of the details that are repeated about specific angels and ranks of angels may have been invented by the unscrupulous to exploit the genuine interest that people have always felt in these beings. But, having said this, the sources we find for these categories and lists in scripture and elsewhere may also derive from genuine divine revelation. It's, you know what's weird? It's pouring with rain, but the sun is behind it, shining through it. Do you want me to show you? It's quite astonishing. I'll just show you people there. Sun shining on the roof of my neighbour's house, and it's quite magical, but it's science, but it's also magical. It is certainly possible that particular angels have appeared to people throughout history, and that they have particular characteristics. It is beyond the scope of this book to fully examine all these possibilities. Nothing in this book proves or disproves the categorizations of angels that appear in both ancient and contemporary texts. If you wish to know more about such ways of understanding the angelic realm, there are many books that give more detail than I have space for here. It concerns me that there are people who will charge money for contacting your guardian angel, or for identifying the angel you may have met in a particular encounter. Always be suspicious when someone wants money for that kind of knowledge, because as I described to you at the beginning of this video, you know yourself if you have something angelic with you. It's your whole body vibrates with the energy. Your hair stands up on the back of your neck and on your arms, and you resonate like a string on a guitar resonating to the upper and lower strings, or like a drum, the skin on a drum resonating after you've hit the drum. You feel that energy resonating still. It's kind of like that, and very potent, very, very potent, and a bit astonishing. Can be frightening at times if you haven't encountered that before. Others claim to be able to channel messages from the angels and, again, often profit from doing this. I think it best to be sceptical of such claims. It seems inappropriate to claim absolute knowledge of the angelic realm. Clearly the angels only reveal what they wish to. But beyond this, it seems disrespectful to claim to have some kind of power over or exclusive arrangement with the angels. Indeed, deeply disrespectful. Deeply, as we say in Hebrew and Yiddish. The chutzpah, in fact, the audacity or the temerity to put yourself on equal par with angels, or even the gods, or God himself or herself. Remember this: if angels want to speak to you or help you, they are perfectly capable of doing so without any need for intervention by so-called experts. She's completely correct there. Absolutely. You'll know. You will know if you're being communicated or directed or guided, or in danger situations protected by whichever angel decides to come down to protect you and be there for you in that moment. You don't get to choose, by the way. You don't have any control over that. And if you think you've got control of it, more fool you. I would not enrage an angel if I were you. One of my favourite scenes in a movie, I think it was called Michael. It was played by John Travolta, and he comes walking down the stairs of his apartment, and he's unshaven, hasn't brushed his hair. It's sort of how I look in the morning, except I don't have to worry about shaving per se. But anyway, he comes down, he's walking down. I think he walks downstairs. And he's sort of staggering down, he looks hungover and unkempt and sort of grotty and scratching his balls. Very anthropomorphic description of the angel Michael, who's actually a god of, not a god, but an angel of war, principalities of war. But anyway, I've never forgotten that scene. I laughed until I cried and fell off my chair. I don't know why, but I just found that so delightful, that anthropomorphization. I cried and cried and cried with genuine, with peals of laughter. Researching angels. I have mentioned my belief that it is presumptuous to claim complete knowledge of the angelic realm. So what do I seek to gain by research into people's meetings with angels? What do I think it is possible for us to discover? Firstly, I think that it is important to take as broad a view of angels as possible. By viewing a large number of different accounts of encounters with angels, we can work out for ourselves what we think is the truth. It is natural that we want to know as much as we can about angels. It is also natural that this desire may sometimes lead us into irrational or occult beliefs. Various experts tell us that there are certain types of people who will be allowed to see angels, or that there are particular signs that reveal the presence of an angel to the uninitiated. One example of this is the widely believed superstition that if you see a white feather, that is a sign that an angel is nearby, which I consider just mere folklore or, magical thinking per se. Some things are quite sweet, so why not? Why not have those little magical belief systems? Another example is a theory that there are particular numbers or words that also tend to be associated with angels when you come across them. Well, my favourite is the 1111 sequencing, which I see quite regularly, by the way. It's probably just a coincidence or it's a synchronicity, but it's always a timely reminder to me to stay on top of things and stay awake and aware for any unexpected shifts, whether positive or negative, as I go through my day. The problem with such superstitions is that they take advantage of the human tendency toward irrationality. Once we hear the idea that white feathers reveal the presence of angels, we will start to notice every white feather we see and to give it importance that far outstrips what we would previously have felt. This is not a silly thing to do. It's simply a result of the way that the human mind works. We can't take in all the information we receive, so we select what to focus on according to what is uppermost in our mind. Illusionists and hucksters have long taken advantage of this tendency in designing their tricks. I don't mean to unfairly criticise such beliefs. They are harmless, even if they seem to me to be unlikely or far-fetched. But they are also examples of the way that the gap between our desire to know about angels and the amount of direct experience we have can lead us into strange perceptions. The best antidote, so what she's basically saying is remain grounded in ordinary reality. Don't go off on flights of fantasy or fancy, and if you have an encounter, as I have done, record it and analyse it and be circumspect, but ultimately, when you have an encounter with the supernatural, you're not crazy, and you know when it's been an authentic encounter. You really do know. And other people, as I described, could even see it in my face, even though I tried to quietly deny it. I don't know what you're talking about. I know nothing. They knew. So that man in that particular instance must have seen either a change of atmosphere around me or he actually saw the angel. She didn't admit to either though, but it's interesting, isn't it? And like I say, that being's not with me all the time, hasn't been with me for quite some time actually. That was back in 2014, 2015 that they were quite active in my life because I was in a very dangerous, life-threatening situation, often in that pub. And nasty it was. That's why I won't set foot in there ever again. Anyway, just not the right space, not the right vibration for me. And it's just how it was then. The best antidote to this kind of thinking is to find out as much as possible about the real experiences people have had with angels. The more we read about angels, the more we understand the reality of the angelic realm. And as I say, even reading, it's not the same as experiencing people of Earth. If even a fraction of the stories I have compiled here are genuine accounts of angelic encounters, then the logical conclusion is that the angelic realm lies all around us. It is a spiritual plane that coexists with the physical plane in which we live. People do not meet angels because of their religion or beliefs. They meet them because the angels choose at that moment to make themselves known, and they do so for a reason. I agree completely with that. Ideally, I would like this book to be much longer. I could have included an enormous number of accounts, which would all cast more and more light on the world of angels. But the range and variety of accounts here does prove how common encounters with angels are, and how important the intervention of angels in human affairs can be. Like the entity that saved me from smashing my head as I fell forwards out of the police academy bus. Was it an angel or an ancestor? I don't know, but something saved me that day. However, this cannot lead us to any firm conclusions about the divine world that lies beyond the angelic realm. If angels are messengers and helpers, they clearly are messengers from the divine realms that lie beyond the angelic realm, inaccessible to the human mind. The presence of angels in our world should in itself be enough to re-energize our faith in the divinity of the universe and to remind us that the physical plane on which we dwell is only one of many planes of existence. My research is thus useful in helping us to understand as much as we can about angels, and also because it redirects our minds to the question of what lies beyond and how we should live our lives if we are convinced that angels are a part of this world too. Believing in angels. One of my correspondents asked me, "Do you think it can be bad for you to believe in angels?" Personally, I don't see any possible harm that can come from it. However, some religious writers have taken the viewpoint that veneration of angels can become the equivalent of idolatry, that by focusing our faith on angels, we are neglecting to bear in mind the supremacy of God. Not necessarily in my worldview, because I believe that everything is interconnected. We all connect back like a giant revolving jewel diamond, as it were, with many facets. We all connect back to that one consciousness of God, or the Godhead, of which angels are a part, but we as mere humans in mortal flesh also play our part too, while we're here in this flesh suit, here on planet Earth or wherever else life forms exist in the cosmos. Life forms in the sense of carnal, physical beings, you understand. It is relevant at this point to explain my own religious viewpoint, as it may affect my view on this subject. I was brought up in a strict Catholic environment and spent the first part of my life following the Catholic faith. As I grew older, I came to question my beliefs, particularly why any one church should be regarded as being superior to any other. I agree with that. I studied other religions and found they all had a great deal in common. I am still a Christian, and I am still fascinated by the areas of agreement between the religions. For this reason, the subject of angels is of particular interest. An aspect of spirituality that is common to so many different faiths around the world seems to be highly significant. I find angels to be a great source of inspiration about the real world of spirit that informs the faiths of the world, and therefore nothing but a positive force in one's life. Another correspondent said that she firmly believed that it was only those who believed in angels in the first place who could hope to meet with them. This is inaccurate. She advised that if you wanted to meet with angels, you should try to believe in them as strongly as possible. Why I say it's inaccurate, there's many cases of people who've been in terrible cataclysms or terrible car accidents that were atheists who still had divine intervention from angels. So no, you don't have to believe in angels for them to believe in you and to intervene in your life, if that is your destiny or your path or your awakening per se. The author continues, from reading historical accounts and the letters I received on the subject, it seems to me that angels can appear to pretty much anyone, regardless of their faith, religion or moral qualities. I agree. Angels appear for many different reasons, and I can't believe that they would stop to consider whether or not a particular person believes in them strongly enough to be worth communicating with. Furthermore, angels are not like the fairies in children's books, who only live because we believe in them. Again, I don't agree with that either. The fae and the elementals live whether we believe in them or not. See also the Islamic version of the jinn. They're all interconnected, by the way. They are there whether or not we believe. However, if we don't keep an open mind, it is possible that we may meet an angel and not even realize what has happened. So in that respect, there is an element of truth in what my second correspondent wrote. Those who believe in angels are more likely to see them, but only because they are more likely to recognize them when they appear. On the other side of the coin, it is perhaps also true that those who believe strongly in angels may perceive them where there is only simple providence, coincidence, or sheer luck. Perhaps if you believe strongly enough, you may ascribe any piece of good fortune to angels, rather than looking for earthly causes. But is it so bad if we occasionally ascribe a happy or fortunate event to angels when it might have a more mundane explanation? When we are looking for angels, perhaps we are also more ready to celebrate the angelic side of humans, or to recognize the miraculous aspects of our everyday lives. In other words, if you believe that angels exist and intervene in the human world, that belief has real consequences for how you view your life and make moral choices. When we believe in angels, we have faith that the divine is something that is near to us every day. I don't personally believe that it's near to us. I think a better word would be accessible to us. For example, if I feel that I'm in direct threat of my life, I may call upon my angels and they may appear in a nanosecond. But also, according to fate or destiny, they may not, and therefore I may perish. And who am I going to blame? God, the angels, my misfortune, my destiny? It's all open to interpretation. However, I have perfect faith in my angels because I've lived that many, many times, that they have come to me, not necessarily in a form that I recognise, but as an energy that indeed, literally, figuratively, supernaturally and astonishingly saved my life many times. But anyway, I'm going to end there because we go on. The next chapter is called Angels in Times of Crisis, and I'll read that to you tomorrow. That's where all the anecdotes and testimonies and stories of people who've experienced angels really begins from here on in. But I'm feeling a bit lightheaded now, and I'm tired, and I need something to eat and a nice cup of tea. But yes, I wanted to begin with that book, and so I bid you good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm, and enjoy the sunshine that's coming our way, hopefully in the next few days, possibly tomorrow, but it's gone all murky again, so it's in the lap of the gods. Anyway, bye for now, people of Earth. I send love to you all from the higher and the middle world and the lower worlds, and may we have peace and joy, success in all our undertakings, and walk with our gods of our understanding at all times.